Thank you, Jim. Good morning, everyone. How are we doing this morning? No? We're fine. Well, good. It's good to see you this morning. We're glad that you're here. Visitors, we thank you for being part of our service. Those that are our regulars, we're so glad to see you and glad to have you this morning. It is a wonderful time of year, isn't it? It's a time of family. It's a time of food. But most importantly, it's a time for giving presents. Or maybe better yet, it's a time for receiving presents. This season of the year, we're all trying to figure out, we're either on the internet or we're in the stores. We're trying to figure out what to buy those folks that we love so much. We're trying to figure out what's the right gift that just fits them to a T. That either fits their personality or fits their life or fits something that has gone on in the past or maybe even something that we hope will go on in the future. But it's something that is special. And we may look for hours upon end. Or we may be, as our relationship, mine and my wife's relationship, it's like, here it is, go get it. But we love the idea of receiving gifts. But this morning, I want us to look at not just the idea of receiving gifts, of giving gifts. While we will give gifts this season of the year, and we will give sweaters and shirts and pants and shoes and socks and unmentionables, and we will give them toys, and we will give tools and kitchen gadgets and doodads and all kinds of assortment of things. I want us to think about some gifts that we can give not just one time, not just December the 25th or 24th or whenever you may exchange your presents. But I want you to think about some gifts that we can give all year long. 365 days out of the year, these gifts can be shared with others. Well, let's think about, first of all, what we can give our friends every day of the year. And the gift that I suggest is that we give them our hearts. Friends are great, aren't they? Friends are just wonderful to have. And while guys don't tend to have friends really from the standpoint of as you define friends, we have associations. We have folks that we like, folks that we get along with. But those friends are dear to us. Those are the folks that we share our life with. We share life experiences with them. We share events with them. We share our thoughts. We share our hopes, our dreams. We share everything we think about. We get on the phone. We talk to them about what we've done today. And unfortunately, we not only talk about what we've done today, but we talk about what our neighbors did today that we have no clue really what they did. We talk to our friends about everything, though, don't we? We tell them our innermost thoughts, our fears, our hopes, our dreams, our loves, our wishes. We share everything with them. And that's good. Solomon says that a friend loves at all times, but a brother is born for adversity. A friend loves at all times. It's wonderful to have friends. Because friends, Proverbs 17:17, as iron sharpens iron, a friend, what does he do? They sharpen us. They make us better. They improve us. They improve our way of thinking. They improve our feelings. Study after study comes out almost on a yearly basis of how friends really do improve our outlook, our disposition, our thinking, and our even longevity. And so friends are important. And the Bible deals with the aspect of friends getting along, of friends being friends, while the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. But what does Solomon tell us about the love that a friend has? Oh, it's a cherished blessing. While those of flattery of those that don't want our success and don't really care that much about us seem to be so great, Solomon says, it's that love that a friend has. It's that love that a friend cherishes. Well, inasmuch as we love our friends, we have to learn to give them our all, give them our best, to be there for them, to be supportive of them, to help them in their time of need, to understand that being a friend is not just something that is for our benefit, but is for theirs as well. A man and his little 4-year-old daughter were driving down the road one day, and she was playing in her purse, looking in her purse and counting her money, and she said, "Daddy, I'm rich." And he thought, well, I wonder how much money she's got in that purse. And he said, well, honey, why do you say that you're rich? And she says, because I've got a bunch of friends. I'm rich. Friends are the folks that we communicate with. Friends are the ones that we talk to. Friends are the ones that we share with. Friends, we tell our accomplishments, but we also tell them our defeats. There's an example in the Bible of a great friendship. It's the friendship of David and Jonathan. These were two individuals whose heart was knit together. They were close friends. Matter of fact, you go back and read the story in 1 Samuel, you find out that Jonathan really even ventured to his life to save his friend David's life as he approached his own father, Saul, who wanted to kill David. And he approached him even on David's behalf. One of the interesting finds is in that story in 1 Samuel 18 and 1 Samuel 20 especially, of David and Jonathan being so close, is that Jonathan gave David some armor, his very own. What a great present it is. Here's something for you, David. David received that gift. He received it with great love and great appreciation for the fact that here's a friend that's willing to give him something. And so I ask you, the next time you think about a friend, think about, what can I do for them? Well, I don't necessarily have to give them something wrapped up, but today I'll give them my heart. I'll let them in, and I'll let them know me, and I'll get to know them, and I'll share our life together. And so, to your friends, let me encourage you this year to give them your heart. Share your life with someone else. But what am I going to give everybody? And what can I give everybody? Because admittedly, I can't run out to the store. I can't even run out to the dollar store and buy a gift for everybody. When you consider in the United States of America, there's over 300 million people. Unless you have over $300 million, like say you can't go to the dollar store and buy a dollar. You can't even buy a $1 candy bar anymore. But if you were able to, we couldn't do that. But what can we give to everyone? We can give love. Paul talked about, with regards to the church of Colossae in Colossians chapter 2 and verse 2, that their hearts were knit together in love. Their hearts were knit together. You might say, well, first of all, preacher, that's a church. Therefore, that's a family. And that makes sense. That's what a family, that's what the church is to do. And that's right. But we have to realize that love is that which reaches out. And maybe not literally, but proverbially hugs everybody. Love is the Christian way. We are to love one another. 1 John chapter 4 and verse 7. Verse 11 tells us that this is the way of God, that we're to love one another. Some will raise their hand and say, preacher, you're still stuck on this idea of loving one another, but it's really Christians loving one another. No. Because if you keep reading in 1 John chapter 4, John gives a scenario. And the scenario is, and we're paraphrasing now, a man that says that he loves God, but he hates his brother. And so John then asks the question, as like I said, we're paraphrasing these verses now, but John asks the question. He says, how can a man say that he loves God who he has not seen, and yet hate his brother whom he has seen? The implication there, and the principle that John is teaching by inspiration is simply this: love others, no matter who they are. Because we have to ask ourselves, as Jesus was asked, who's my neighbor? And do you remember the story that Jesus gave in answer to that? Wasn't it the story of the Good Samaritan? Wasn't it the story of the Good Samaritan where here's a man that had fallen among thieves, and the priest and Levite went by on the other side, but the Samaritan stopped and helped? The man that should not have stopped and helped, the man that would have really in many ways been considered, if not an enemy, at least a hated one. He shouldn't have stopped, but he did. Why? Because he understood the value of brotherhood. He understood the importance of love. When we really stop and think about love, we think about love really is the oil that makes a squeaky hinge not sing anymore. Love is the glue that binds us together. It's the chain that links us to one another. Love is really the sugar in the pie. You ever had a pie without sugar? Diabetics are saying yes, but you had a sugar substitute. But remove that from a pie, you probably won't eat it. Love is the sugar in the pie of life. You see, love really wants what is best for someone else. Now, some would say, I gotta love you. I had a man look at me square in the eye one time and said, I love you, but I don't like you. I didn't say anything because in my mind, I can't separate the two. In my mind, in the way I look at love out of the pages of the Bible, I can't separate the two. I may not like their actions. I may not like the decisions that they make. I may not like the way they handle themselves. I may have not liked the fact that that man told me he didn't like me. But I still love him and I still like him. I didn't like what he said, but I still like him and I still love him. The Bible teaches us to love one another. Jesus says this is the badge. This is the sign, if you will, that we all wear as Christians in John 13, verse 35. By this shall all men know that you're my disciples, if you have love one for another. If we do not have love, according to 1 Corinthians 13, what does Paul tell us? Paul sat down and wrote to a church that was having problems. And part of the problem was they weren't listening. They weren't listening to what God told them. Go back to 1 Corinthians chapter 5. They weren't listening. They weren't practicing what God had told them to do. But part of the problem was they were beginning to value, chapter 12 rather, they were beginning to value certain gifts. And Paul says, I'm going to show you a better way. Well, what's the better way? Well, the better way is love. And he talks about, he says, as he runs through a lot of things, he says, I can have the gift of prophecy, and I can have all knowledge and understand all mysteries. And he says, if I don't have love, it profits me nothing. He goes on down in verse 3, he says, I can have all faith. I can serve folks, and I can have all kinds of faith. But if I don't have love, it doesn't profit me anything. And then he goes through, beginning in verse 4, and he talks about different characteristics of faith, or of love, Love suffers long, is kind, does not parade, does not envy. Love truly is that which God says holds us together, makes us the people that we are. Now, it's easy to not love people. Why? Because, like we said, we don't always agree. We don't always see eye to eye. We don't always, pardon the expression, but it's an expression I grew up on, we don't always skin the cat the same way. We are folks that do things differently. We are folks that see things differently. Well, why is that? Well, there's several reasons. First of all, sometimes we come at it from a world perspective instead of a Christian perspective. Sometimes it's because we don't allow the Christian perspective that we have to be the important aspect of our life. Sometimes it's because of our past. Sometimes it's because of folks that we're around. There's a lot of different reasons, whether we want to justify them or not. But the important aspect, what God expects of us, is to love one another, to be kind one to another. And we need to share that with our neighbor. That's a gift that we can give every day. Just simply learning to love people. I know it's hard, but think about how simple it can be done. It can be done with a smile. It can be done with a pleasant greeting. It might be done with a nod of the head or a wave of the hand. It might be done with a good word or a nice little card or a visit. It might be done with a pie or cake. It might be done just simply by being kind. It might be accomplished by simply being folks with character. Not characters, but with character. Love can be expressed in so many different ways. One lady went to a place, and she went regularly to this place. It was a place of business. And she went regularly, and one day she showed up, and they said, "Ma'am, don't you want to go through the self-checkout aisle?" And she said, "No." And this was something new in the store, and so this was a young person, and she was a lady of age, and so this young person said, "Well, why not? You can get through faster." She said, "Because that machine will not ask me about my arthritis, but that cashier will." That's love. Oh, so simple. It doesn't have to be some big grandiose thing. It doesn't have to be $1 million gift. Although if you have one and you want to share, I'll be glad to share it with you. Love one another is a gift that we can give all year long to all those that we come in contact with. But then, what about to our neighbors? What gift can we give our neighbors? Well, once again, we ask who our neighbors are, and really our neighbors are anybody that we come in contact with. But we can give our neighbors patience. The word patience that's found in the Bible literally means to come or to take a long time coming to anger. To take a long time coming to anger. Let me tell you about something I saw on the streets of Nashville here not long ago. I didn't believe it when I saw it. I'd heard about it in the news a lot. I had read about it on the internet a lot. But I just couldn't believe it till I saw it. And when I saw it, it kind of scared me a little bit. It was at a red light here in Nashville. It was actually, there was one lane that goes straight, and the second lane you turned off to the right. As I pulled up to the red light, I noticed that there was a car in front, and then there was a car right behind them, and then I was third in line. I could not access the turn-off lane, and I needed to turn off. So I was third in line, and I was sitting there at the red light, and the car in front of me was a little bit sideways. I had noticed that. And the car in front, as the red light turned green, did not go immediately. You know, everybody now thinks that as soon as that red light turns green, you need to floor it. And this individual in the front did not floor it. I thought started very slowly at a very good time. The car that was right in front of me pulled out very quickly. Matter of fact, in the other lane, very dangerous, and pulled right in front of the car that was front and stopped. I'm not talking about slowed down, stopped, almost causing a wreck. And sat there, revved his motor up, and then took off as if he owned Charlotte Avenue or Charlotte Pike. Yeah, it happened right down here. You might say, nothing new in Nashville. I get you. But here's my issue with it. I don't know what that first car did. I don't know if he didn't take off in time, or maybe somewhere before that they had cut that individual. I don't know. But I know this, that person was impatient and wanted to show their impatience to their neighbors. And as then I pulled off, I sat in the parking lot and kind of just shook for a minute because I was almost part of a wreck. Not by my fault, but by someone, yes, I love them because we love everybody, that doesn't have sense enough to be behind the steering wheel of the car. But I wonder what drove that person to impatience. Not patience, impatience. I don't know. And you might say, well, maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe, something had happened in their family. Maybe they were on an emergency. If they were on an emergency, they would have gone on. There's a lot. It doesn't matter. We need to learn to be more tolerant, to be more patient. If you go back and look at the Bible, when we talk about loving our neighbor, doesn't it say love's patient? Love suffers long. That's patience. That we're to be patient people. The Bible tells us, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, be patient one towards another. God is patient towards us, Romans chapter 2, verse 4. Jesus, in his patience, according to 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 12, saves us. We are to be patient towards others. Well, how does it work? Well, in this day and age, everyone tells us that they can't hire enough help, that there's folks just not wanting to work. And that must be so because there's a lot of help wanted signs and there's a lot of people roaming the streets that seemingly are not working. And so when we go into a restaurant and it takes a little longer for them to get our meal, let's be patient. When the individual that's in front of us does not hit, from 0 to 100 in the first 5 yards right after the red light, and they don't go right as soon as it turned green, let's don't blow our horn. Let's be a little patient with them. When we're talking to someone, whether it's a coworker, a neighbor, or a church member, and they say something that we just don't like, and it just flies all over us, let's bite our tongue, hold our temper, and be a little patient with them. When it comes to our family, and familiarity breeds contempt. When it comes to our family and they do something, we'll classify our family stupid. Let's be patient with them. Let's give them that gift of patience. When anyone does anything to us and we consider it a slam, let's be patient. Let's be patient with them. When provoked to what seemingly is anger and wrath, let's learn to be patient with them. If God is patient with us, if Christ was patient enough to die for us, if He's told us to be patient, then shouldn't we try? Let's learn to be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slower still to wrath. Let's remember James 1. Let's remember that admonition. Let's be individuals that are patient with others. That's a gift we can give everybody all year long. But then what about God? You know, we made that Christmas list. We made that present list, and we talked about, okay, you know, we've talked about friends, we've talked about neighbors, we've talked about everybody. But we got to spend time talking about God. What can we give God? The greatest gift of all, which really doesn't cost anything, but yet costs everything, doesn't it? We give ourselves. While Paul would talk about to the church at Rome in Romans chapter 12, that we're to give ourselves as living sacrifices, wholly acceptable to God, which is reasonable service. And not to be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds, that it might prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. That we, as Paul said to the churches of Galatia in Galatians chapter 2, verse 20, I am crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ lives in me. In the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. You see, no man having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of God, according to Luke chapter 9, verse 62, but according to Matthew chapter 16 and Luke chapter 9, verse 23, but Matthew 16, verse 24, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Luke's account adds the word daily to that admonition. We, this side of the cross, and this so many years from the cross, do not understand and appreciate the way they did in the first century, the idea of crucifying self and giving self to the Lord. The greatest sacrifice that we can make is ourselves. And we say, well, this is the least expensive gift we can give God. Yes, but it's the greatest gift we can give because it's us, giving us and ourselves our all to God. Now, let's fight extremes. One extreme says, okay, then that means, preacher, that every minute of the day I either need to be reading my Bible or I need to be praying and I need to be doing something that we would classify as a holy thing. But preacher, I got to work. Preacher, I got a family. Preacher, I got to have some downtime, some rest time, some me time, some, as we're many places calling it today, mental time. Gotcha. Don't disagree with any of that at all. But it is to say that even in all of that, we're giving ourselves to God. God, what can I do for you? How can I live my life better? How can I be the example that you want me to be? How can I be, if you will, more Christian today than what I was yesterday? Lord, I give myself to you. You direct my life. You lead my heart. You lead my steps. You let me follow. And I will follow the best way I know how. I will do, I will be, and I will try all that I can to serve you. For any man that loves his life will lose it, and he that hates his life gain it into eternal life. That's what Jesus said in John 12. Are you willing to give? A man by the name of James Coffey, you may have not heard his name. About 2010, I believe this happened. James Coffey had a very good college football career, if you will. Went on and was drafted high in the draft. Was drafted, I believe, by the Green Bay Packers. Played 1 year. Had an excellent rookie year. People looked and said, oh, he's going to have a great career. He's going to have great things are going to happen. He's going to make a lot of money. He's going to be a huge success. He quit. He quit. But he quit for an interesting reason. Coffey said that in his college days, he found Jesus. Now, I don't know what he was religiously. I have no idea. But he said this was his words. He said, I found Jesus. And he said, it changed my whole life. And he said, I just don't have pleasure in playing football, but I do have pleasure in telling people about Jesus. I want to give my life to serving the Lord. And so, folks, whatever we do, whatever our task is here upon this earth now, may it be done by serving and glorifying God as we give ourselves to God. Presents. Presents mean a lot, don't they? Presents are of great value. Stories told of a young boy many years ago that found 2 black walnuts. Couldn't find them, he said, as he told the story. He couldn't find them much, and they were sort of a rare commodity, sort of delicacy. By the way, if you want any, there's some. They're not in my front yard. I have them in a bucket. You can have them. But he said he found 2, and instead of opening them, he gave them to his father, who he knew loved them. He never knew what happened. 30 years later, his father died. He found those 2 black walnuts in his father's desk. He asked his mother, he said, what is this? And she said, one day you came in, you gave your father those 2 black walnuts that you found. And he said, yeah, I remember that. She said, well, your father thought that was such a wonderful and beautiful gift of you giving something you wanted so bad, but was willing to give to him, that he couldn't part with them. He kept them. And every time he looked at them, he thought of you. He was reminded of you, and he was reminded of the fact that you were willing to give him what you wanted so bad. These are gifts. Love, our hearts, our patience, and our all. These are gifts we can give all year round. And so this morning, if you're not a New Testament child of God, or you're one that needs to rededicate your life, won't you come? All together we stand and sing.